Ladies and jelly spoons, boys and girls, welcome back to the 10K Collective podcast, the place to be for 6, 7, and even 8-figure Amazon sellers who are also more broadly e-commerce sellers. Today is an Amazon-focused conversation. We're talking conversion optimization and translation with Omar and Gri of Margin Business. Omar's a co-founder of Margin Business, and they specialize in listing optimization and translation for busy Amazon sellers. So, Omar, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
My
Really
pleasure.
excited to get this started.
Yeah, you're a man of excitement and enthusiasm on it because I was interviewed you by for your podcast a while ago and I really enjoyed the
Yes.
experience. So, where are you coming to us from today, Omar? Let's give a bit of context.
Okay. What I want to do is I want to talk about the importance of Amazon optimization for listings, and as well translation, and within the translation as well, the localization. It's and the whole marketing aspect of Amazon. So everything needs to be in one thing, and I want to just make everyone understand what it is. I try my best to not get too complicated, and yeah, let's do this.
Sounds good. So, where in the world are you right now, Omar? Just
At
let
the
us know.
moment, I'm based in Spain because of in southern Spain because of COVID. It's a bit hard to move. So yeah, I think staying here is the smoothest what we can do. You don't have to go to any immigration center or anything. So just stay and stay as long as we can, and then just move on because we are constantly traveling.
Interesting. So, a bit of a digital nomad, and I know that you grew up. Did you grow up in Germany, or no? You had a
Yes,
time there.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
So
I
you
grew up.
got
I was born and grew up in Germany.
Okay, so you're real European, that you got a real handle
Yes,
on the culture, and that's really
exactly.
important. I think, as you say, localization is not just about translation. So let's plunge into the content there. So the first question is, why even bother with pro translation? Can't you just Google Translate, or if you're really going to go crazy, hire somebody off Fiverr and then it's done? Why is that not good enough?
Okay, yeah, it's a good question. So actually, going for Google Translate, which what Amazon proposes you actually, is usually a big fail. You know, it's not even worth to think about it. If you very new and you want to test something out, at least hire somebody who might have a bit of experience, is a native speaker, and put it on. But this is only like a temporary until your product arrives, or until you have something going, until something is moving. So but the best thing is, what I can tell everyone, to count this into this investment, what you make already in the product. So don't just think about product, think about as well your shop, because your shop needs to have a nice window. If you go into a shopping mall or something and the window is trashed, why bother? So this is the same as when you have a Google translator in there and everything is just ripped. It seems ripped off, and the pictures are awful, or it's just one picture, and then yeah, buy my product. So why? There's 5 or 6 or maybe 100 other products like this. So if you then hire somebody from Fiverr or Upwork, it's not the same, but you need somebody who has marketing experience, who has translation experience, who has Amazon experience, and who know how to write a localized listing. Okay, when you have a translator who knows how to write a localized listing, you need to still have his Amazon experience, and on top of it, the marketing experience, content and copywriting, not to forget about it. So it's going to be quite hard to find these 5 or 6 points in one go. And if you find it on Fiverr and Upwork, they will just be for one language, for example. Yeah, if you find them, because you cannot even verify if he does. So imagine you hire this person and that's it. Then if it don't work, then you lost a ton of money, because they are not cheap. So yeah, this is the main reason why I think, or not think, because out of experience, that I know that it's really not the good way to go. So the good way is to go is to somebody like our company, Margin Business. There is as well other companies who do the same services, and depending on the language or on the region you're in, you need to choose one of these agencies. Like I said, investment is the key here. If you don't invest, Maybe 10 years ago, it would have been good. Maybe 6 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. But we are right now going into a phase, it will not work anymore. You will lose your whole investment if you don't really follow through with a professional listing and a professional listing in general.
Yeah, agreed. And there's a couple of examples you've got of some terrible mistranslations. I know you had some Swedish example where they
Yes,
translated
yes,
the
exactly.
something very badly. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, this is went viral as well. So when the Swedish market opened, obviously everyone thought like, yeah, whatever. Why should we bother to hire some Amazon experts because the keywords are not in yet? But still, you should have a Swedish translator who knows marketing and who knows e-commerce, even though he don't know Amazon, maybe e-commerce. So you can at least start with something and go in the good direction. No, what they did is they choose Google Translator. And there was a word in there was Rapseed, and it translated into Swedish into rape. So this is obviously a big fail, you know. And who's gonna buy the product? I mean, yourself, the one who created a listing. Would you buy your product? No, obviously not.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty disastrous. Yeah, it's funny
true.
how what you're saying. I guess I knew a couple of serious sellers who were very UK focused. They're a UK based company. They'd had a great history of selling in the UK, and they kind of treated Germany as an afterthought and put Google Translate, and they got some sales. But then first thing, yeah, it was in 2017, 18, and I guess things have really moved on. But also, I said to them, look, I mean, first of all, I bullied them to go and sell in Germany for about 3 months, and they started doing it and have made a lot of money there. But the second thing I said, great, now you're doing it and you've proven you got some sales. Don't you think you would get a lot more sales if you actually optimize it? I mean, sometimes people think, well, I've got sales, why should I bother? To which my answer is, well, there's improving and also your profit margin, all sorts of things. If you're paying for PPC and your conversion rate's low, then you've probably got a very low profit margin, etc., etc., right? It seems kind of obvious. They're a very intelligent business person, but even so, there's a kind of culture gap, right? People think of language as a little add-on, and it's not really, is it? I mean, the first thing I
No.
look whenever I look on Amazon.com and I see something that says Happy Time, I think, it's a Chinese factory, and in my mind, I take $10 off the price I'm prepared to pay for it. Simple as that. Now, people don't necessarily shop that way as consciously, but if your language is weird, there's a sort of strange smell about it, and people still forget with internet marketing. And I want to dive into this a bit, but that trust is still a thing. People are still very
Exactly.
wary online. They think they're getting ripped off. They think the quality isn't good. They think it's faked. And anything that gives them a feeling that it isn't 100% real and normal and what they're expecting just puts people off. And particularly, I think, in certain markets, right? The Germans, not the most famously forgiving shoppers, and the second
Yes.
biggest Amazon market in the world, right? I mean, what's your experience of the biggest fails that you've seen in translation in Germany before we get into how we should do this? Let's twist the knife a bit.
Yeah, in Germany we have plenty examples because German shoppers are very skeptical in general, as you already mentioned. So if you don't have a real like German native is one thing, but a German localized native language, that means that you speak really with the customer directly. So he understands you, he feels you, and he knows that you are from Germany and your product may not be German, because everyone knows where products coming from, but most of the products. But he needs to feel that you understand him and that you know how to speak to him. So if you come up with a sentence which is directly translated from, for example, buy now, okay? So buy now would sound like, for me, I don't like it as well. Maybe there's still, lots of German in me. So when somebody tells me buy now, I feel like I'm being sold to. I don't like to be sold to. I like to be taken over, okay? I know that I'm going to be sold to, but I don't want to be directly sold to. So I would love to have it like very smoothly, And this is what you have to show them within the Amazon listing. So I give an example. There is a very big company, and I will continue this example. It's GNC. GNC is a big protein company from the US, very big in Asia, very big in the UK as well. And recently I've seen the listing from them and in Germany, and they have no sales. And Germans are definitely protein fanatics. They buy protein, crazy. Although the country is not as big as the United States, you have, for example, On Nutrition, which is if somebody is not into protein, would not even know the brand. while GNC, everyone knows it because it looks like medical supply, and they can buy it just everywhere. Everyone knows it. So On Nutrition has about 300,000 on one product of sales per month in Germany. So GNC, they have almost no sales. Why? Look at the two listings. GNC's listing has one photo, and the one photo is not even adapted to the market. A+ content is not adapted to the market. Nobody on there, like very nice pictures, maybe a woman who's doing sports, depending on the country, what people want to see. Maybe she's eating something, which makes them confident that they can eat as well, not only need to take the protein shake. Somebody very muscled up or somebody normal, depending as well on the country, how people want to see, what people want to see. So the 9 photos, they don't even take care of it, and as well not a video as well. So if you go to On Nutrition, and as well the text was terrible, no keywords inside, and Google Translate to the finest with maybe one paragraph, each, like a small sentence, So On Nutrition did a better job, but still they could do a lot better in the listing. So can you imagine they sell, for example, 300,000 worth from this one product. They have nice pictures, they have a nice A+ content, but their text is not 100%. Their text is maybe 60%. So they could, if they put keywords, for example, inside, and they drive some traffic from outside into the listing, and they make some more promotion, not only PPC, they make it look a little bit better. They get a little bit more engaging. They are out of this 300,000, they can make easy, they double it up per year, because they can take the whole market share by then.
Yeah, and what also people miss again and again with this optimization piece is like, oh, that's going to increase even if your sales only increase 10%. If that increase doesn't involve any increase in cost, and your profit margin was, say, after ads, I don't know, 20%, that you've added a massive chunk to your profit margin. It's what people don't get. Like, my optimizations only increased my conversion rate 15% from 10%. Like, hang on a minute, do the math. Do the math, as they say in America, because if you look at your profit margin, you might have added 50%. And
Sure.
people get so revenue obsessed. Even businesses that are run by very seasoned business operators. People have been, in some cases, generations of. I've got several multi-generation businesses that I work with, and even those guys miss the point that if you increase your conversion rate without increasing the traffic, in order to get more sales with the same amount of traffic, much bigger profit margins. So that, I think this is the piece that people miss, and it seems so obvious, but I'm shouting and banging people over the head just to kind of get this across, because people miss it. So having shouted and banged people on the head and say you really got to get this right, let's look at about how to do it. So you've got a 4-part formula, which I like. 4 sounds nice, simple, friendly number to really, you say unlocking success, kicking your competition to the curb. I like this stuff. So what's the first place you start? Is presumably not going on Fiverr, right? What do we start with instead?
No. The first one, we look at the company in general. Yeah. So we do at the product as well. So before we start anything, we're going to do a keyword research. The keyword research would be out of the competitors, what all these companies we are competing against, and the product we are competing against. So normally on Amazon it's only the product. So we're going to take the products and see exactly what we are looking at. Who has the most sales? Who has the less sales? And where can we bring ourselves in? Is the competitor very, very big? Like, for example, big protein companies, which have a lot of money, which we obviously as small companies cannot tackle. So in this case, if they are foreigners and if they didn't do their homework, what we can do is optimization. And with this optimization, we can get so close to them, even we will even spend less of money only by optimizing the correct keywords. And how do we do that? And how to find the correct keywords. So how do we do that? So foreign companies tend to look at the bigger picture. They have no native speakers. So what they do a research, they check keywords, which are red, for example, okay? But what if there is a, for example, these foreign foreign companies, what if they have taken wrong keywords already from the competitors themselves? So what are they going to do then? what we do is we just go inside. We take out the keywords which are actually not taken from them, which have maybe a little bit, now in Europe it's a little bit, we take them, like, let's give you a number like 500, and the others have keywords which are like 1,500, and we take them out. They don't have this in their listing. We put it in our listing, and we automatically rank better than them. Afterwards, what we do, we will translate. We will translate the listing. Obviously, we have you should have a copywriter. At the same time, you should be a content writer for the native language you are translating in, and it needs to be localized. A native speaker, which is localized, obviously, will do that for you. Then they need to break it down. And as well, if there is normally there is an English base listing. From this English base listing, we translate, but we don't literally translate. We look at it from the way of what can we translate, what can we localize, or what needs to be even changed. Maybe there is something changed, not the sense of the listing, but how we address the customer. So we will go from there as well. This is where the localization comes in, because we really have to speak to the customer about how he wants to be addressed, how is he used to address in his country. Yeah, and that's why it's already hard. If you have 7 languages in Europe, and each and every single one will be translating. You will need to hire, for example, just given you will need to hire 7 freelancers, yeah. But all these 7 freelancers need all have the same background. What I just been speaking about: content, copy, Amazon experience, marketing, localization, and translation, and e-commerce, obviously, and general e-commerce experience. And this will be very hard, especially when you want to go professional, and especially when you need to go professional right now. I mean, when I talk about professional, it's not just, make the listing look nice. The listing needs to be perfect. The listing needs to be adapted to the country, and the listing needs to be as well after, for example, 1 month or 2 months. Check again. Keywords, are they ranking? Are they good? Photos, are they good? Who changed? A+ content. Is the A+ content correctly corrected to that country? Have the reviews changed? Can I change something in the A+ content? Because after a few months, even if it's the same product, all the countries need to have different from the reviews. They need to have everything needs to differ, because customers from the other country, from different countries, will as well have different reviews. They like different things. They dislike different things. So everything needs to be afterwards built into the listing. So it's one thing what I can say is never have a set it and forget it strategy. This is the most important thing.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Actually, it's very tempting to set it and forget it with a lot of things at Amazon.
Definitely.
That's partly how it's sold to people as an original business model, right? But no business actually flourishes with that kind of mentality, and I guess that's true even on Amazon. So let's dig into a few of these areas a little bit. I mean, the first thing is the keyword research. So you were saying that the foreign companies tend to do sort of short tail keywords, basically, and we need to look into medium tail keywords. Is that right? I mean,
yes.
What's the best way if somebody wants to do this themselves to a degree? I mean, obviously, it's clear that doing this yourself too much is going to be very, very hard to recreate what a translation company does. But even if you're working with an expert, it helps to understand their side, right? For example, I was just working with my bookkeeper, and sometimes I work with a professional photographer, and I help to focus, help my clients write briefs for photographers so that they get the most out of them. So even then, it helps to understand the other side. So what's the best way to find those valuable medium and longer tail keywords that the competitors are missing?
Okay, we are usually working with Helium 10, a software which normally, if you're in the Amazon space, you should know, because it's one of the best tools out there. There's as well ZonGuru, which is as well a very specific tool, very good as well for the European markets, as well for Australia, and now as well for India. Very helpful. But let's in general, what you need to do when you see, for example, these keywords being used by let's say foreign companies, and they have these long tail keywords, the red ones, and they make no sense at all. For example, let's say shake, protein, best, okay? Things like that. They might be at number one, okay? But it makes no sense to put this in, because when you read it, it's like Google Translate has done it. Even though you bet on it, they bet on it. They might bet on it $10 per click. They will come at first place, and they will be in the sponsored ranks in the first place if they really do it. But in general, if they do it, then they will be at the first place. So what you're going to do is you don't check on him. You check on him only which keywords he don't use. There is ways how to find this out. I don't go technical now, but you can check what keywords he use and what keywords he don't use. And you can go to the others, what keywords they use as well. All the ones which are, for example, on the first 5-6 spaces in Amazon. And most of the times, these are the foreign sellers, because they have the money and they have the power in order to be there. But as soon as they don't do the sponsored anymore, they will fall, all of them, because obviously they are spending and their margin and everything will mess up at some point. So when you're coming in and you do the correct choice and you have the correct keywords, you can even go with a lot less budget in there, because the budget of the long term is very important as well. Although you're gonna invest in your shop front, in your storefront, you're gonna invest in your listing, but it's one investing like over time. It's not as big as every day to need to pay for clicks, for example, because we all know Amazon is getting very competitive, and not everyone can hold with the big boys right now. So there needs to be ways in order to make it easier, and as well for big companies who are interested to put their budget down a little bit, because at some point it makes no sense anymore if you spend so much money all day long. Especially in the US, it's completely crazy. We talk about other PPC amounts, but the UK knows as well already. The UK is as well already per click. It's pretty high, In Europe, it's still affordable, and this is as well an invite for the US sellers to come into Europe, because it's still affordable. There's still things to do before we get the aggregators in, but this is I think we come to this later.
That's another question.
This is for the keyword research.
Thank you for flagging that up. I guess we're looking for that
long tail.
And long tail.
I like, in general, I talk about long tail keywords.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really a fan of one word, one words or something. I really like long tail keywords.
Yeah, big fan as well. And it makes sense because really what we're finding is that white space, as people call it, or the blue ocean rather than the red ocean. So instead of protein shake or some insanely competitive keyword, you're looking at protein shake for women 50 plus, or I don't know the market, but whatever it is, something very, very specific. And also the thing is that strikes me in sort of general keyword classification, if you think in terms of a funnel, top of funnel, as I'm just educating myself, they're normal Google shoppers. Middle of funnel, you kind of got some idea. Bottom of funnel, you're ready to buy. The more specific a keyword is, the more of a buyer keyword it is for me. If somebody puts the word protein shake into Amazon, they clearly have no idea what they are looking for, except that they've heard about protein shakes and it's an alternative to Google, right? But the chances are pretty high they're going to click on your listing, cost you $10 or whatever it is, €15 or something ridiculous. If it's in the US, it could be that much now.
Yes, definitely.
The other thing to say is that the affordability of PPC in Europe versus the cost of translation, I think people don't put their costs. It sounds really weird, but it's almost an accounting error that you need to ascribe your cost to a product line over a period of time. Just because something costs you $500 or euros now to do doesn't mean that that's the way you should ascribe the cost. You should amortize the cost of a translation across the useful lifetime of the translation, right? So if you sell 10,000 units and it costs you $500, it's peanuts. It's pennies per unit sold. Whereas PPC is going to cost you, $5 every single time you sell the thing, if that's your main way of selling. So looked at it that way, I honestly think any form of optimization for conversion, including translation, is incredibly good value. And people miss that because they look very short term. And it sounds like a strange thing to say, but I just think even sophisticated business operators, they're good at operations, but their financial management is kind of primitive. They're like, oh, it's going to cost me $500. I'm not going to do that. I'm like, yeah, have you looked at your PPC spend this month? Did you notice you spent
Exactly.
$10,000 or euros, whatever? So for any Americans listening, I would say please think about those two numbers next to each other, PPC costs versus translation, and really make a financially driven, intelligent decision. And I would swear that 9 times out of 10, the conversion optimization wins. I mean, I'm just such a big fan, which is why I wanted to have you on the show. I just think it's the way to make more profit. Anyway, so that's my rant over. One question I've got about is this word localization. We've used it 2 or 3 times. We really ought to define what does this really mean. You've gave us a bit of an example in Germany. Let's dig into that more because I think that's really important as well.
Okay, from localization in general for translating is really if you have the English version and the English version has some phrases in there which has nothing to do with Germany, for example, okay? But at the same time, it had nothing to do with I will go only for the 4 big countries right now. I will leave Netherlands, Sweden, and Poland for the moment aside because they are emerging markets, they are new.
Yeah.
So when we have France and when we have Spain and Italy, we really need to adapt. That means that people who live in that country, people, the best, even people living a long time in that country, will actually understand how to address the Italian customer or the Spanish customer or the French customer. While in Germany, now it's as well changing a little bit. They like a more formal approach for the listing, just an example. In Spain or Italy, it's very, very relaxed. While in France, for example, it's as well formal. It's changing as well a little bit, but they love it when they see that the person is from France. He understands, he uses words from France. And the best would be even that the product was made in France. Because if your product is made in, for example, in China, if the French see it, it's a bit of, they don't really like it, so they don't want to know. For Germans, don't matter so much, but if it comes to baby or something which is for the body as well, same. Now, if the product, for example, in Italian, they love it when their product comes as well from their country. So the localization is really to adapt to the country as if you are from that country. And that's why you need native speakers who has lived in that country. And for us, for example, we are a team which are really focused on this. So we really have this team we always working with them. So they understand exactly what we mean with localization because they have been a long time part of the team. They get inactivated, they get trained. And yeah, this is for me the main point of localization. And as well in Amazon, I mentioned it already before, it's the reviews. You can see through the reviews the differences of the different cultures. When you read, for example, a review in Italy, it might be complete different complaints or completely different like plus points than in France or in Germany. It really depends. It really depends. But this is as well something your A+ content needs to change within the countries after a while. So the best would be after 3 months, for example, every A+ is changed as well the pictures, if it needs to be. If it's not, the pictures would be great as well to be changed, if it need changes. So everything.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, now everything needs to be in line. For example, the 9 pictures we cannot change in Europe.
I was about to ask you about that.
Yeah.
You're talking about making very country-specific changes, which makes 100% sense. I think everyone gets that who is in any way interested in, refining their conversion rates in different countries. But how do we actually deal with that within the Amazon platform? Because I've had that question numerous times from newbies all the way through to very advanced sellers, and it used to be that you could change it if you had the ear of an Amazon account manager, which is unusual. But if you're doing a 7 figures, you could sometimes do that. Is it even possible to do that now? In the latest technical question.
As far as I know, as far as I'm aware, it's not possible to change the pictures from country to country. Like the 9 pictures, we talk about the 9 pictures or the video which you have the possibility to put on. Now, there is a possibility to do. You can open accounts in every single country, for example. Then you can change. Then you can have different pictures. Which I have seen companies doing it. They have different entities, the same product, and that's how they can change their pictures and as well adapt it to the country and change as well the text on it. That's why. But if you don't do that, and it's a real hustle, you need to be really big, and accountancy in every single country, and it's not so easy. What I recommend is to write the three main languages: German, French, maybe Spanish. Italian is rather a smaller market, so I would not put like 4 languages on the pictures, but I would definitely do the 3 languages on the pictures. Obviously UK is alone, but it's still connected, so English should be anyway on there. But in order to reach all the countries, because if it's only English on there, it's as well not good. I mean, there is not a perfect way, because we are still not in the times where we can choose the languages on the pictures. It's either this or that. So if you begin with one language, for example German, you have German through all of the other countries, which I think is not very advantageous. Yeah. So I think you should put the 3 languages from the beginning, so really? You can have them. Yeah. So the A+ you can change.
Okay, so tell me about the A+ content. So you can make that so you can change the. So I haven't actually tried to do this myself. So this is where maybe it's a slightly dumb question if you've done it yourself and you're listening, but you can change all the pictures in A+ content by each country. Is that right, or is it just
yes.
the language?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So you can make it very, very specific. Okay, great. So that's our real localization tool that is easy to use, right? I get what you're saying. So I guess, for example, if somebody in Germany says this is really well made and solid because they like that kind of thing, but it's really difficult to use, then you have to put in some different pictures there. From the Italians say it looks beautiful, and therefore you have to show the beauty of the product, right? Is that the kind of
yes,
thing
exactly.
you mean? Got
exactly,
you.
exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
And by the way, like, if Americans listening, that if you're trying to lump together Europe as a whole, there is a lot of similarities, obviously, from a distance, but the Germans are obsessed with engineering and products working well. The Italians love design. It's kind of a cliche, exactly. But it really is true.
Very good.
You would buy an Italian car because you love the excitement of it, but you wouldn't buy it for reliability. I mean, it's just a fact.
For sure.
They're getting better, but they're characterful and fun, but they fall apart in my experience. So yes, there's something to bear in mind. So yeah, interesting stuff. So that's the localization piece. Can you give us some examples? We've given one example, but let's give us a couple more examples. Let's stick to Germany because it's the biggest market financially and therefore often the first one people go for. Give us some more examples of where you see classic errors that American or British sellers make when they go into Germany in terms of localization. What kind of red flags should we look out for in our own writing sales copy?
For example, for Americans, from what I've seen, they have their market. I personally like American marketing because it's like a giant walking. It makes the air shake. When you look at the pictures, it's like big impact script. I'm just picking something randomly in my head. Something maybe dark. It's very shiny. It's flashy. For the US, it's something amazing. But for example, for Italy, you cannot go into it. Or for example, Germany, it's as well too much. So German really it's almost like Italy, but it's a little bit less. So if it cannot be too much, and it needs to speak to the customer. They need to see themselves in there. So you cannot just come over with the American marketing and put this in front of a German customer. It needs definitely to be adapted. It needs to be less loud. Let's say it this way.
Yeah, I think Americans look at German marketing and even Brits as well. It looks very bland and factual. And I think you need to get over that because your instincts will be to be in a country of shouting people. Then the person who shouts loudest. That sounds very. Also, it's not a judgment against Americans, but it's just a different. Even the way Americans speak. If you're sitting in a cafe, if you're sitting in a cafe in Europe, and this isn't the prejudice, it's just a fact. the Europeans will be embarrassed because the Americans are going, "Hey, honey, put that down," and it's like twice as loud as anyone in the room. Now, if you're in America, everyone's that loud; it doesn't stand out. To some degree, in Italy, by the way, it's the same. But if you
Yes,
do
it's
that in
in
Germany, or
Spain
especially
as
in
well.
Britain,
In Spain as well.
for example, it's a British prejudice that if you speak loudly, it's a bit kind of uncultured. It's like you're a bit poor. Or, I don't know. British upper class people tend to speak quite quietly, and these are weird sort of cultural prejudices. They're not right or wrong, but if you want to sell, you need to just respect that, and therefore you need to
Yes,
park
sure.
your own culture. And I think that's really hard for a lot of people, and myself included. I mean, I've lived in Germany for a couple of years, so I'm used to the differences. But you have to accept it at some level and make your friends with that, because just because your instincts are screaming that it's right doesn't mean it is for the other person, and that's just a cultural translation thing, isn't it? I mean, I guess
Definitely.
that's when you just have to hire a native speaker and trust them, because for you it might look boring, or if you're a German selling in America, it might look ridiculous and screaming. Like even Brits selling in America, I often look at their images and their copy and I
Oh, it's
say,
the same.
that
It's
is not
exactly the
punchy
same.
enough. You
Yes.
need to be more aggressive, more exciting. You need to be absolutely cutting to the chase with the language. And Brits also struggle with translating into American, so it's not the only way round. And we
Yes,
have to,
exactly.
if you talk very quietly in America, nobody will hear you. So, anyway, the one more question I've got around this, actually, we're talking about this thing of trying to get around the fact that the 9 main images, which do most of our marketing work for us, let's face it, we can't localize to countries. Now, I've tried sometimes with clients, or with clients have suggested to me having separate ASINs in different countries in order to get around this. Do you think, a viable way of dealing with it, or is that too sort of messy? What's your thought about that?
I personally like everything in one place. I don't like the different ASIN stuff. Or, I mean, if this works, I have never like tried it myself to do this test. But I think it's messy for the upload and for the person as well working on there, and as well at the end when you want to. I don't know. It's for me. It's not the way to go. I like
Yeah.
it like it should be every one ASIN for this and this ASIN for that. It's like this. It should be the best. Like if you grow, if you get bigger and you have more. I've seen accounts where it's completely goes a bit upside down when you have lots of products. So yeah, it's just my opinion. I know there's people doing it. I know there's people doing it good, but it's a different way of working. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you've got very few products, like I don't know,
Yes.
10,
Very
then you
few is
could
different.
probably
Yes.
convey 70 ASINs. I mean, that's only going to be a pen or 50 or 40, whatever it is. But yeah, if you've got a big catalog, it's going to be a nightmare to manage. I mean, I think you're right. The other thing is that obviously your average rating, those critical stars on the search results page is not going to translate, and the number of reviews isn't going to translate. So although the localization is good, you've lost the power of having lots of reviews. And
Yes.
it's probably also better if you're selling a product to Germans who tend to be pretty harsh with their reviews. It's more like a technical analysis of German reviews sometimes. It's like, here's a 15-page report on your product. It's
And
so
with
different from the German.
photos and
Yeah,
and
with everything. Like, but normally, here are the 10 things that are wrong with your product. It's the sort of thing I would love to hire somebody like that as part of my product development process, because they would really hone it. But you don't want that in public, so I'd rather dilute something like that with some friendly French and Spanish reviews anyway. So yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those things you have to think through. It is an option. It's interesting that you don't completely dismiss it, but I think structural complexity is not what we need to add in our Amazon accounts right now, is it? Because as you said, they're already
yeah, it's
complex enough.
it's, it's yeah.
And I think also, if you're trying to sell that business later on, it's going to really confuse people. As I like say, hang on, you got 15 different ASINs. And say, oh no, that's just one product. What? That's already a bad conversation, isn't it? So I'm
It's
kind
true.
of err on your side, I have to say. Um, so let's talk about the words. So we talked about localization, but often, we talked about localizing images in A plus content. That makes sense. People often
Yes.
dismiss the words because they think it's all image marketed. Do you think the words make much of a difference these days? And if so, why do you think that matters?
You mean on the pictures? The
I
words
mean,
on the
well,
pictures?
that's a good question. Well, okay, let's talk
Yes.
words on pictures and the words in the rest of the
Yeah.
listing. Words in
So
general.
we
What
have
do you think?
we have seen a trend. What means like the first picture is a very decent picture, which is white background and everything. But the second, we already begin to see a lot of lifestyle For example, if it's a microphone like in front of me, there is these, the different, here you can turn it around, and here you can do this, and here you can do that. So it's already very, we go somewhere where I'm in a few years see that it's like a video already, we're going to pass to a video. I think pictures at some point will go, but for now, what I see the trend is going is really that products will be already almost described on the pictures. I mean, not too crazy, but there is a lot, like there need to be information on there. Some people don't want to read, so they need to have a fast sentence which make them buy already on the pictures, which they say, oh yes, that's good, like I don't know, when we have the microphone here, what I have in front of me, and they say, or the headphone, what I have on my ear, noise canceling. Noise canceling is a small word. We can just pop it onto the picture. And the ones who are searching for noise canceling, we definitely buy it, or they look into the next word. And there is another one, and there are Bluetooth, and there is another one. So small facts about the article is definitely good in the pictures, rather than explaining the whole thing. The explanation, or the direct explanation, should be in the description, for example. So I would definitely go for at least like 3 pictures where we can really inform the customer on the pictures about what the article is all about, so they can see already in the beginning, or if it's, for example, shoes, and they are vegan, that you have the vegan emblem, that you have that you have all these necessary certifications, which make them stand out of any other competitors. So the more certification, the better. And this is, for example, what the German customers want to go for. They don't want, if they search for natural shoes, these vegan shoes, they don't want any other shoes. They want the vegan shoes, and they want the vegan shoes with this certificate, this certificate, this certificate, which certifies 100% that they are good for the environment. So yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so I was just thinking about what you were saying earlier with having English plus the 3 main European languages that you probably
Yes.
go for in most cases, depending on your product. I know, for example, in Italy, certain things, I know somebody did very well with watches and very specific things, but mostly it's Germany, France, and then maybe Spain. Even Spain can be quite small in my experience. So, but
Yes, it is.
but then you said, okay, I want to see English in 3 other languages. I was thinking, wow, that's going to take a lot of space up. But I guess if you're using a
Yes, it
word
is.
like noise cancelling, I guess it's only a shorter amount of text. So I'm taking that you're talking about translating 2 or 3 words, not whole sentences, right?
Yes, exactly. But there
Okay.
is as well one picture, for example, where we can go. You put, for example, the flag. You put the British flag, you put the German flag, you put the French flag, you put the Spanish flag, and you can put as well as put a sentence. But this, for example, I would put it like on the last picture, somewhere where it needs to be, this information needs to be on there. For example, maybe I would not go there, and for the item, maybe I would leave it in English, depending on the item, depending on the main country where it's going to be sold. If Germans see that item, there is some English words on it. I don't think that is too bad. Don't need to be German, but if you really 100% only sell it in Germany, definitely put German on there.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that I would say, for example, with British sellers, that I know it's a lot of hassle these days to sell into Europe. I mean, it's weirdly, this is a post-Brexit thing. It's so weird. It's literally 30
Yes.
miles from England to France. It's closer than I am to a lot of the rest of England. It's crazy. And London to anywhere else significant is 100 miles. Or 160 kilometers or whatever,
Yes.
but yet it's like trying to ship to China right now. It's a super large
Yes,
amount of
it's
hassle.
crazy.
So a lot of British sellers are, instead of thinking about Europe as a whole and just put everything in Europe, they're starting to VAT register for, say, Germany, and just focus on Germany because that's hard enough. And I think
Yes.
that's actually not a bad approach for Americans as well. I mean, is that something that, obviously, it's a bigger strategy question than just translation, which are you guys, translation, localization, optimization for conversion is what you focus on. But as a sort of bigger strategic question, do you think that's a good approach, or do you think people are unwise and they should try and go for all of Europe and just see what works, kind of thing?
Normally, if we have companies from the US, and they're big companies, they know about where their product's going to be shipped, where their products is being used. For example, most of the times for American sellers, they can see the map, and when it goes over, because you can still see who orders from you and pay even, and if they even pay the higher rate because you don't sell in for example in the UK, or you don't sell in Germany, they can still see that somebody ordered. So then you can see, can I is it worth it to sell in the UK? Or is it worth it as well to sell in Germany? And if you have this possibility, definitely I would begin with the UK as always, and then Germany at the same time. And from there, I would look at the other markets and check little by little, because Germany and the UK will already give you enough headache. Sorry, I won't say headache. They give you enough occupation. You will be very occupied to very busy. Very busy.
That's very, by the way, what you just did is change from British culture to American culture, because in America, being negative in any way is kind of just basically rude. I mean, the Americans I interview for the podcast and speak to privately are the most incredibly polite people ever. Brits are ruder, they swear more, and they don't mind the word not or bad or awful. They're okay with that. So that's another, that you right there, you just showed that, like, localization. You were localizing to UK, and then you went, oh, hang on, that sounds very negative. And then you went on American, like, well, it's somewhat challenging. Well, Brit would say it's a pain in the butt. That's what they would say. It's a pain in the ass. I hate it, but it makes me money. That's what a British person would say when I'm speaking to them privately anyway, if they're not trying to sell something. So for a British person, if you're really, really positive, normally they're thinking, what are you trying to sell me? So, yes, but okay. You're absolutely right. Whether you think of it as you're very busy, the American version is very challenging, or it's a pain in the ass, the British version, both things are true. You're absolutely right. I mean, I would say it's a pain in the ass selling in America, selling in Europe right now if you're British. So for Americans, it's going to be that little bit harder because, the geography is a bit different. So I think moving little by little and starting with the obvious easy wins is a great idea. But I would say, and to anyone listening, I've just been banging the drum about this, and I'm going to do it again. Newsflash, folks, two things. Germany is a bigger market than the UK by quite a lot, if you're looking at revenue or gross market volume, whatever you want to call it. But also, American sellers speak English. Therefore, British market is very crowded with American sellers, and they're using PPC to sell their products. Germany has that barrier of entry perceived barrier of entry, even not if you use Omar and his team, of the language, and therefore it's just less crowded. And therefore it's not just about, it's a bigger market in terms of volume, but it's a bigger market potentially for you in terms of profit. I mean, is that just definitely me, or are you seeing the same kind of
No, it's the same. It's the same.
Well?
It is definitely, because, I mean, if you look at the whole picture, Europe has about the same size as the United States. Okay, so American sellers are very they have the whole field in order to sell. Now in Europe, Germany is really a big market. They really ordering a lot. Since COVID, it's even a lot more. I don't have numbers now in my head how much it is, but it's definitely a lot. And it makes 100% sense for an American seller to attack this market, a part of UK as well. But because at the moment there is nothing better and nothing bigger. And if you're already established and big in the US, you have definitely enough resources to come over, to build this up and to crush the competition. This is what we want to do.
Absolutely. And by the way, that's an Americanized, localized piece of language again. It's funny, like thinking about, localization isn't just about changing language. I mean, Americans try and sell in Britain and they don't quite get that either. I mean, I think localization in Britain is important. If you say crush it to a British person, that sounds like you're about to smash them in the face. Do something very aggressive, whereas to an American that's just normal business. So like, there's a level of aggression in the language, for example.
Yes, it's true.
In business to business language. So it's interesting. I mean, this is just, I'm just reflecting playfully on it because I speak to Americans all the time for my work, but there is a big difference, and as Brits we kind of ignore it, and then we're suddenly very conscious of it in certain contexts. So that's funny. So obviously you're very, very expert in all these areas. So what services do you offer if somebody comes to you, like a UK based person or an English speaker or an American company, and says, we want to sell in Europe, we want to do Germany and France to start with? What services do you offer them?
So normally what we do, like I said, we do the listing optimization and translation. So Amazon listing optimization and translation. Optimization in general is not only the keywords. As we have been speaking about as well, is the pictures on the side. We do even the photo shooting. There will be a separate website as well, but for now, the services are within margin business, and as well the A+ content. Really the whole picture of the listing, the translation of the listing, the keyword research in the listing, the competitor research in the listing, the PPC keywords if needed, backend keywords, obviously. So we really take care in general of the whole picture of the listing to make it look like a really nice entry point for the customer who has already his credit card here and he just want to buy. When they come on the listing, they will say, okay, that's it, I'm going to buy. This is what we do. We help customers to sell more, who sell on Amazon. And yeah, this is the main purpose of our business. And we have the staff, like I already mentioned, we don't hire on demand. No matter what project we get, obviously, if we get a project where we have to translate 10,000 SKU per month, then it's going to be different. But for now, we're running at about 1,000 per month, 1,000 translations per month, and we have the team who is there. So if we get more, that's not a problem. There is always somebody who is adapted to one project, who knows, for example, we know who is good for a higher level product, who is good for example, for products which going to be sold a lot during the day, or which going to be kicked out if they don't perform well. So every customer's need we can cover. We have the marketing trained people, we have the Amazon trained people, we have the content and copywriter, all the person in one go. So if we speak about 7 languages here, if you go to Fiverr or Upwork, you have to hire 7 people which have all these qualities, which you obviously can do, but it will cost you more time, more money, more headache. You need a manager who is actually hiring all of these people. So if you're a big business, you know that you don't have that time and you don't have really time to take care of this. So obviously you are better off hiring an agency like Margin Business or other companies which are out there, which doing services like ours.
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing is that people often think about the kind of cost structure of what is it they're buying, and the answer is, well, hiring people in itself and finding quality people and training them, that's so time consuming. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't do it. If you're running an 8-figure business and you want to do in-house translation work, or a 9-figure business, maybe it makes sense to in-house it. But I mean, you've got to be very, very real about what it is you're doing. You're building a mini translation agency within your business, right? And
yes,
for most people, definitely. It doesn't make sense. If you even got 100 SKUs and you want to, get a bunch of German translations done and French translations, and then maybe optimize them again in 3-6 months' time, why would you go and hire a whole new
team?
Why would you hire an entire new team, distract yourself from your core business, and then go back to it and then fire all the people again because they've done their job? It doesn't make sense as a workflow. So I'm a big fan of hiring experts. And again, once again, I can't stress this enough. Like, in terms of the economics of your business, if you get the conversion piece right, that is a one-time cost. Well, yeah, some refresher, but mostly one-time cost. That will pay you back again and again every single time somebody comes to your listing. Whereas PPC will cost you money every single click forever. The same with your product costs, right? So I just think I'm a big fan of assets you create once and get paid multiple times for, and your listing is that thing. So I'm a big fan of this. I'm always begging people to do that, and I'm glad to have you as part of the team to offer that. So if people go to amazingfba.com/Omar, OM for mother AR, then you can get a special deal from Omar and his team. Mention me, Michael Veazey, or Amazing FBA if you're booking any services. So have you got any special deals for the listeners, or is it just a standard thing?
Yes, if listeners come over, we can give a direct 10% discount on the first invoice.
Amazing.
This is for the listeners who came through this podcast, definitely. And I have as well a last message for everyone listening. And it's as well about the agency, what is going on at the moment, everything. If everyone have heard about aggregators, if you didn't heard about them, you will hear about them. They are big companies who buying Amazon businesses. They do a very good job, and they are super professional, and they have a lot of resources in order to do this. We talk about worldwide. We talk about the US or Germany or the rest of Europe, no matter where. So they are coming in, and they are as well having what you just mentioned, Michael. They're having these small agencies within the company, or they are hiring agencies like ours, for example. Now, when we have other companies or business development managers who are up to now having not invested into listings, into PPC, really. I mean, look at the whole listing, look at the pictures, everything of the whole products. They will lose at some point, because the aggregator companies have the resources, and they will make this happen because they buy the businesses and they buy them to make them better. They're not there for just gliding through and get like 40% of the whole product, what they could take. They want to take the 100%. So they will put money in there. So anyone who has a small business or a medium or a big business and want to survive within the next, this is my prognostic, this is not written somewhere, yeah? But want to survive the next years, definitely needs to step up and invest into the listings, into the whole listing, in order to compete with these professional aggregators or brands which are coming out of there.
Agreed. Yeah. So I think there are various step changes that have happened for various reasons over the time. I've been selling on Amazon since 2014 now. For like in dog years, that's like 50 years
Yes,
in the
no.
normal world.
Yeah.
And I think I agree 100% with you. I mean, the thing is, I've interviewed a ton of aggregators for the business. I've had clients that have sold their businesses, and I know now people who've become business brokers, that sort of thing. So I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's an obvious thing, but people are just been, Amazon sellers have been looking at the aggregator thing with some interest, but in some cases, they've been saying, well, I'm not selling my business yet, so it's not relevant
Yeah,
to me.
exactly.
And I agree with you
Exactly.
100%. That is absolute garbage. It's so incredibly relevant, because whether you
Yes.
sell your business to them or not, you're competing with people who are suddenly incredibly well funded, and they may not know Amazon as well as you do in some cases. That's your opportunity, right? But they know marketing, they know image marketing, they know copywriting, they know localization. And therefore, yeah, I couldn't agree more. You've got to up your game. So even if it looks at the moment like it's good enough to be mediocre, I couldn't agree with you more. I think this is a much broader message that I agree with you, that's good to get out there. Like, the aggregators are changing the game for everybody, and that's you've got to up your game, or get out of town, really. So I agree with you. And what better way to up your game than to develop an asset as in a listing that will pay you for as long as you have it. I mean, as opposed to
Definitely.
PPC, which makes you money this month, and then next month the costs have gone up and you've got to change it again. We have to play the PPC game, but I always find it kind of depressing. Whereas I love great photography and great marketing copy can
Yes.
last for years. I mean, in the Amazon space is very fast changing, but there was some subscription copy that somebody wrote for subscription to the New York Times, and they tested against this control, and it took them 30 years of testing to beat it. Can you imagine that? That copy was the
Wow.
best copy you could have for 30 years. Now, this isn't quite as evergreen as that because it's Amazon, but it goes to show how much of an asset and a long-term asset really well written copy can be. So I think people underestimate that at their peril, and you're the guys to do it. So just remains for me to say, Emma, thank you so much for coming on the show. Real pleasure
Thank
to
you for
talk you
having
through,
me.
and very educational stuff. And I agree with your warning about aggregators. I think that's an important point. So thank you for, the warning. And also, if people want to make sure they're proofing their business against that onslaught of competition, again, amazingfba.com/Omar, O-M for mother, A-R. You get a 10% discount off margin business if you want to go and use their localization translation services. And I reckon a lot of people should do just that. So, Omar, thank you so much for coming on the show. Real pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Michael.